All right, and welcome back to episode 68 of The Bench, powered by Wowhead. And we have had Legion Remix launch, servers going down, servers coming back up, servers going back down again once more, and everything's been kind of interesting. Squishy, on the last episode, whenever we talked about Remix, you said you weren't going to play, but I've seen you play in Remix. Was this a lie?
Remix is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. It's more like an ARPG than it is an MMO. And I haven't hit my ARPG itch in a very long time, so I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun with it.
I think everybody's actually had pretty positive comments about it, considering the fact that I think the sentiment coming into Legion Remix was mostly negative. Even people complaining about time gating then came back and admitted that maybe time gating is not that bad with Legion Remix. What is up with the time gating with it?
So they're releasing a raid and like the storylines associated. Basically, they're doing a patch every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So like what is it, 7.1, 7.2, like that kind of stuff every 2 weeks. So like Night Hole's available in now 1 week from when you watch this. Then 2 weeks after that is whatever the raid is after that, and then 2 weeks after that is in Taurus. So
Tumus Argus, yes.
Tumus Argus, that's it. Yep. People have grinded to an absurd level already. While there wasn't frog farming, there was a lot of degenerate elite farms, which have all now been fixed. That were fixed over the weekend, and Blizzard decided to, I don't know, use their weekend to fix the frog farming strategies of Legion Remix.
Are people equally mad about the fact that this stuff got fixed? Because I heard there was like an island as well, like the Vault of the Warden's island or whatever. People were farming mobs on that, and then there was different islands and stuff.
Yeah, there's people that are definitely mad about it. It's like, you know, you nerf this now, I can't catch up. Why are you doing this? And, well, sorry, but you're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way.
So why are
I just don't understand. Like, what is Blizzard doing? Why do they care so much about the integrity of these for fun game modes? I feel like if there is a way to farm and people are doing it, unless it's like really miserable or somehow ruining people's experience, like why did they stop it?
I don't know, because to me, Remix feels like a non-competitive game mode, right? Like if there was like some competition or prestige associated with Remix, all right, fine. But Remix is supposed to be this thing that's for fun, right? So then Blizzard getting involved in nerfing farms for an infinite power, infinite scaling game mode seems a little bit odd.
I mean, I tend to agree with that. There's no reason, because now you just have people who are the frog farmers again, and the people who aren't, and there's a massive power differential, and it's going to take twice or 3 times or 4 times as long for people to get that power back. And it's just like, let people have their fun. Like, that's fine.
I always hate the argument about, oh, Blizzard does this because they're trying to string you along and they want you to pay another month of sub or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's generally not what's happening. But when I see stuff like this, it really makes me wonder, you know, like what integrity are they protecting here with LEMIX that they need to stop people from doing this?
I think this is pure speculation, but what I think is like they go in the office, somebody goes, oh, players are doing this. The person who, you know, a couple of the people who design Remix go, oh, that wasn't intended. And then they go and fix the bug or the interaction that wasn't intended. And then they're just like, yep, well, now it's fixed. and the consequences aren't really thought of like super directly. They're just like, well, that wasn't intended. Let's fix that. And, you know, whatever happens, happens. Now, I have seen that, you know, Dryny and some of the Liquid guys were going really hard on Remix. Things like Dryny, Hopeful, Shakib. And Dryny got all the way up to 740 item level, tweeted this out, and then people in the responses were very, very mad at him and told him constantly to go outside and that he has no life and that he should, you're cooked, mate. How is Remix nostalgia? This is just spending all day in dungeons. People were really mad that he grinded Legion Remix or something, and this was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. It's like, why are people mad that he just grinded Remix?
I don't understand that, because this is like the staple of any ARPG. You don't go to an ARPG stream on the night of season release, like Diablo or PoE, and just go like, oh my god, you stayed up all night, like you pulled a 24-hour stream playing an ARPG? Like, what the fuck?
Unemployment final boss.
You really play this game too much, Ben.
Touch grass. Like, what in the world is going on? Like, do you even sleep? Like, I couldn't believe that they got mad that he allocated his time to this as if it affects their experience playing the game literally 1%. It doesn't.
Oh my
Haters
god.
gonna hate.
Like I just hit 740 myself like today. And so it took me a couple more days and I still had fun with it, and that's okay. And you will eventually get 742, and there are like 90 more days of Legion Remix. Play it at whatever pace you want. Like, I'm done now. I'm gonna do my raids when they come out, and then I'll go play some other game. Like the new Pokemon game's coming out in a couple days. That seems cool.
It's just so strange because like his impact on his amount of playing the game doesn't have any impact on anybody else's. So I was just like, the go touch grass comments didn't, like, why?
No, you don't understand, Telos. Since they're the only ones to push that far, the meta is now 5 tanks because they were doing 5 tanks in Legion Remix, and now the meta's 5 tanks.
I think the meta's
clearly their fault.
I think the meta's 5 tanks because tank scaling is out of control and mob scaling is out of control, right? From what I've seen.
No, it's their fault. You don't understand. No, it's their fault.
Oh.
Thank you.
That checks out to me.
You know what? That's the racial first 1%ers are back at it again, huh?
Just how like our opinions influence Blizzard, and our opinions only.
Yeah. Real cool. So what is up with the 5 tank thing? Like, is it just scaling's really out of whack, so DPS get crushed and healers aren't necessary?
So if you thought retail WoW was bad in terms of HP to damage taken to damage output scaling, Legion Remix is like 10 times worse. Like early on, there was an affix where the seasonal affix of Remix, where an orb fell down, and you're supposed to catch it, you get a buff. However, the damage would always fire off originally, and it did like 90 million damage on like a 30. So if you just weren't a tank, you just can never live the affix going off. And tanks even had trouble with it early on. So like, and then you just have general scaling stuff like things hitting way too hard, and the majority of damage effects in Remix are flat damage effects. So it doesn't matter whether you're playing a DPS or a tank, you're just doing, a similar amount of damage. So why would you not just play a DPS with higher survivability?
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes sense. Tanks, 5 tank meta is so funny to me.
Yeah, here are all your tanks now. Hey, how to make tanks fun? Let's see. Make them do damage.
Make them the only role that can complete the content.
I didn't say that. Make them do damage.
Okay, so I think that this week we are just going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff. From Legion Remix to Raid Nurse to there was a Scarizard interview by our rival podcast that was a banger. So we're going to talk about pretty much everything. We're just going to kind of jump around, and we're not going to get away without talking about a little bit more Remix, where there was a bug that allowed everybody to get all the Druid Forms, and some people were very mad that that Blizzard stated that this bug was going to be getting removed. So, for context, Legion Remix came out. All you had to do was create a Druid on Legion Remix, and then you were given all of the Mage Power appearances. Actually, just all of the appearances for all Druid Forms. So Blizzard came out instead. We have other problems to deal with. Our servers are on fire currently. We will fix these later. And then players got really mad that Blizzard stated that they were going to fix it after stating that it was not supposed to be intentional that players were able to get the Mage Tower appearances. Now, I think that you should be able to get the Mage Tower appearances, or at least a recolor off of Remix, because there's no prestige in 9-year-old Mage Tower content, and the Mage Tower was easy at the end of the expansion. I don't really think there's prestige in the Mage Tower anyways. I think that re-releasing it, or at least re-releasing it recolor for Remix makes sense. But at the same time, I cannot believe that people got mad that Blizzard goes, yeah, this is a bug, we're fixing it, and we're going to roll back the people who have the Mage Tower appearances that they're not supposed to have. That to me was equally crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the Mage Tower thing in LEMIX a while back because this was a little bit of an outrage when it got announced. I mean, I think we all have pretty much the same opinion here that the whole point of LEMIX is, number one, something to do for fun, and number two, to be able to have a more fun way to earn back the Legion cosmetics that you may have missed or may not want to go back and do in the past. And excluding a very limited amount of them, I think is silly. And while I understand this, right, like this is more just like salt in the wound, right? Because it would be one thing if you got any other of the cosmetics in LEMIX that you could have gotten normally, right? But these were specifically the Mage Tower skins that you could not get, right?
Yes. And
yeah, so I think that's it's just like almost like Blizzard is making fun of everybody. Obviously, it was a mistake, but the fact that you get them and then people were feeling like, oh, maybe there's a way we get them, or my account has them, and then nope, we're taking those away.
I mean, to me,
it's a little bit silly.
I think the term that you use, "get them," is correct. It's not like you actually earned anything, and I think that, like, if they put them back into the game, which I think that they should have at least given you a way to earn them. And so, getting mad that they're removing something that's very clearly a bug to me was just. I was surprised that people got upset about it. Although, maybe I should be less surprised.
I think this was one of the worst things they could have fucked up for Legion Remix.
All
the things to fuck up, like server issues, fine. We could have dealt with that. Like, no big deal. People would have been mad for a little bit. But fucking up the one thing that you said was not coming back. 100% not coming back. And people log in and they can equip it. They can take pictures with it. And being like, what the fuck? And then just to come back and be like, you know what? It's all a joke. Our bad. Like,
it's a prank.
Yeah, like it's just
it
awful.
Is insulting, and it is kind of insulting at the same time. Like, I mean, you didn't really earn it. You logged in, right? So it's like hard to be like, oh yeah, I should get this. I should keep this.
But for people, like it's almost like somebody gives you candy, then rips it away as you're about to eat it. Like, it just sucks. Like, you can't deny people that it just sucks.
Of course, it sucks. It is. But also, yeah, I don't know. I think that they should have brought it back. I think that this was like a really dumb line in the sand to draw. Like, I'm always going to stand on the camp of like, the Prestige was the 9 years prior that you've had this thing. It's not it's not prestigious anymore. Bringing it back,
I tend to agree.
Bringing it back in a collectathon is totally fine. Like, it's like the collector's bounty. I think that Remix is like the same equivalent as the collector's bounty to me, where sure they made it easier to get these mounts. It doesn't mean that the people who collected the mounts before that didn't have those mounts for 5 years, right? It doesn't stop you from having those mounts for 5 years prior, even though they made it slightly easier, or 10 times easier, I guess, to collect now.
I also don't think people give a flying fuck about any of them except for like the Druid Forms, right? Like, because you think about it, what do people always complain about for the Mage Tower ones? It's like the Druid Forms.
The Druid Forms are cool.
Added they added a new werebear, which is good. But realistically, if you like Sparkle Kitty, there's no way to get Sparkle Kitty in any other way.
Yeah. I think that there's a different problem with the Druid Forms in general, and it's not necessarily the Mage Tower, but it's that they're all gated behind Legion shit, except for the Moonkin ones, which came out in a mirror cell. But like, why haven't there been more Druid Forms over time? Why is there always like this weird thing where they just don't release new Druid Forms? Like,
well, clearly they want them to be very special, right? Like, because like the fact that they refuse to bring them back even in Legion Remix does make me kind of think that they have some sort of thing surrounding them that Blizzard like holds them in a very, very high regard. I mean, so do the players, right?
Yeah, but my point was more like, almost all of the Druid Forms are 10 years old at this point. Like, why haven't they made new Druid Forms?
Yeah, I think an interesting idea, it would be hard to do this retroactively, but a cool solution might be to have some way to signify in the tooltip of something that it was acquired when the content was relevant, if that makes sense, right? Sort of like, imagine you get like a first edition trading card or whatever.
Oh,
so
sure.
like it's like it's a little different for that because that's sort of like resale value, but still okay, you have this Druid skin, but also like when you mouse over it, it shows that you were there and you got it during Legion, so that you still sort of have that in your brain or in your heart, that when you show that or you don it or you show it off, like, yeah, I was there, and it's not like, I don't think you would make fun of other people for having the one that you go back and farm or whatever. It's just kind of like a cool little nod to say that I was there without making these things inaccessible to everybody else.
I think Prestige is a really interesting thing because I think it needs to exist in an MMO. But I don't think Prestige needs to last for very long before you incorporate the next Prestige. Like, the Mythic Mount, I think, is a really, really, really good example of Prestige.
Yeah.
And it could probably even last an extra tier. Like, you get the mount, you show it off for a bit, then everybody has it, so you put it away. And it just kind of resets from season to season. I think that's perfectly fine. Like, if it was like one expansion, they made this exclusive for one expansion, you get it here, then you skip the next one, and then you can get it in the next one after that. I think that would have been fine. I think that's a healthy amount, but you replace it with something new that's prestigious, And I think that's a much healthier version of Prestige than what we currently have, which is just like the all or nothing.
Yeah, and I mean we definitely have this like weird all or nothing thing where I don't know, like it just feels like such a weird line in the sand to draw with the Mage Tower. I mean, the Mage Tower is cool. Like that's the reason that people want it. It's because it's cool, right? Then the Druid, the Druid forms are cool.
Yeah, I think when it comes to WoW, especially, like you talk about the idea of prestige, I think WoW Blizzard should be more in the camp of trying to make cool stuff rather than trying to make stuff that has high prestige. Because I think in general, when it comes to prestige in WoW, that's sort of community built anyway. Like there is prestige, right? Like for instance, I'll be sitting around Dornegal and some guy would be like, "Oh wow, your IO is really high," or "Oh, you're in this guild," or "Oh," you know what I mean? Like your guild rank or your IO score or your gladiator rank or whatever. Like most of that is involved with like the community and what we decide is cool or not, right? It's not really Blizzard saying, okay, this is like, we made this, it's supposed to be special. I think it's more on Blizzard to kind of just like make cool stuff and then we decide what we think is prestige. And different people think different things, right? Like, some guy might think, oh, you have the 1,000 mount achievement, that's crazy, whereas some other people might not give a damn,
Yeah, and I do tend to agree that I think prestige should exist, but I think the way in which it exists currently is kind of annoying, and it's like there's no consistency. I mean, you look at the PvP stuff, and that's probably the pinnacle of prestige in World of Warcraft. It's like you have an opportunity to get it for one season. If you don't get it that season, you're never able to get it ever again. Good luck. You can buy somebody else's account if you want it. And then you have the PvE stuff, which is widely accessible at all times. Where you could get it expansions later, which is totally fine, even if it's at like a slightly lower drop rate. And then there's stuff that's in between, like the Mage Tower, which is like this like random middle ground where they're like, well, actually it's actually closer to PvP than it is even to the middle ground.
Yeah, I mean PvP is funny because it's almost kind of like a time capsule, right? It feels like Blizzard doesn't really do much at all to innovate the PvP or the PvP community or the rewards at all.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of people who are PvP players going back to play, expansions like Mob because, I mean, they, it's more or less the same thing, right? Like it's almost like a new expansion in a way if you haven't even played it because it's not like PvP has really dramatically changed in terms of like, obviously the rotations and stuff has, but it's not like it hasn't evolved in the same way that a raid or a Mythic Plus has for sure. Like that stuff has changed insane amounts over the last couple expansions.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. All right, what do we want to move on to next? Raid nerfs, maybe?
Sure. We definitely have to revisit, making everyone in the comments mad about add-ons and simplifying classes at some point this episode too. So we'll surprise you guys. We'll just like throw that into a random segment.
Where do we even? Is that even on our sheet? Like I don't even see. Where would they?
It's always on the sheet. I mean, when have Brazil keys been on the sheet? But needed to come up every episode.
That's true. All right. There was Dimensius and Salhadar nerfs that hit this most recent week, and holy shit, they made Salhadar a decent amount easier. Dimensius wasn't like particularly, I think the Dimensius was largely the same, but it was still much easier as well. I think both of these nerfs were pretty big.
They're pretty big. I think they hit the completely wrong things in Dimensius. I think the Dimensius changes only hit the people that realistically were already killing the boss. Or people like deep proc, because phase 3 is identical. There is no change to phase 3.
They fixed this incorrectly. So the Umbral Gates now grant Soaring Reshi for 11 seconds was 10 seconds. The problem with this is the first set of people who go and pick up the shooting stars.
Orbs.
Yeah, the first set of people who go and pick up the shooting stars have 15 seconds on their buffer whenever they come into that phase.
Correct.
And so it doesn't matter that they only had the 11. They had the 11 seconds on the gate after the fact because they're beelining it towards their star. Correct. And so this doesn't do anything for them, and those are the only ones that were missable anyways.
That's actually so funny that you say that because our raid leader Drogo has one of the early ones, and during our reclear we did it, and he's like, I only made that by 0.2 seconds. This does not feel different. And everyone in the guild just laughed at him. We're like, no, you're just bad.
Oh no,
but it turns out he was right. It turns out he was right. It is exactly the same.
Yeah, that first flight is still 14 to 14 and a half seconds long, depending on spawn position and stuff like that. Like, it's still incredibly close.
Yeah.
And then like the Pargoth melee damage, I don't know what the fuck that came from.
Oh,
that was not.
You play good tanks. Have you ever tried to play a bear druid on that fight by chance?
I mean, no, but like, why not nerf Dimensius's auto attacks then?
Okay, well, he's also got hands, but Pargoth against a bear druid, let me just say that they are not allowed to take the mob, even if they are in their end card. So they have to have Iron Fur up to be able to take auto attack swings. Because you lose all your rage as you do the fly, so you can't shift into bear form and get an Iron Fur up. Our bear druid got clocked like the first couple of times we went to that platform. We had to change up like how we were attacking that phase. I understand why this nerf happened. Let me just say, I've been there.
So, okay, you know what the crazy thing is, though? If you scroll up to Nexus King, did you know that the Royal Voidwing melee damage reduced by 10%? Do you know how hard the dragon fucking hits?
Well, this
is also killed me many times.
This is also killed by bear druid. My bear druid has come back with 0 rage and also died in this mob. Thank you.
This thing hits so hard. It hits her 90 million per auto unmitigated.
Dude, okay, like I don't even want to come. I don't want this to come off like we're talking about like my tanks in my guild. It is literally just a fundamental flaw of like you come back and you have 0 resources and then you just don't have Iron Fur up and you get shit on by these mobs that randomly kill you.
To be fair though, like this happens to can happen to any tank. Like this dragon is illegal. It hits harder than Dimensius.
Is block the only thing that works against it? Like,
oh, it works perfectly fine. Like everything works against it. It's just the base damage of its autos are just so high for some reason, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, most tanks have like some time that they need to like ramp up some of their defensives. Like, is Warrior like realistically the only thing that's gonna be like tanking that first swing? I guess maybe Brewmaster with Staggered if they don't get one shot by it.
Yeah, but either way, that thing is brutal. Like,
yeah,
the Nexus King changes are great. Honestly, I really do think they needed to nerf the DK or the Warlock requirement.
I think
Dimensius gonna be brutal. On Dimensius.
Yeah. I think that most people, whenever they thought of Dimensius nerfs, the way that you most effectively nerf that fight is DK and Warlock requirements. Yeah.
Because I still don't want to do Devour 2 on phase 1 without 2 Warlocks. Is it possible? Yeah. Is it very, very difficult? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still don't know how the fuck you do it without 2 DKs. Like,
DK is a raid buff. You need to have them.
I mean, it is the final boss. I don't know. It's the final boss on Mythic. 2 DKs. I mean, they've stated that comp restrictions for especially like higher end Mythic bosses can be a thing. It's not the most egregious thing I've ever seen. Like,
I mean, there's no world that we can sit here and complain that you need to have DKs in the raid when previously we were complaining that we don't need to have DKs in the raid.
There's a difference between needing to have DKs in the raid and having 4 required classes. The last time we had 4 required classes was Gahoon.
What do you mean? I mean, like, you're required to have like one of every class.
Did you play Muggsy last season? Like, what the fuck was that boss?
You never needed 4. Like, you think about Deep Farm here. Like, even Deep Farm, you're still gonna want to like. Please tell me how you're gonna to do the void the null binders without it. Like,
high explosive track.
Like, if they removed 1, like remove the far nullbinder, so you knock the close and you grip the 2. That's a fine nerf. Like, then you need 1 DK. I'm happy with that. Like, but the last time we had 4 hard required, as in like you could miss DH buff on Deep Farm with plus 15% damage. That's fine. Yeah. You can miss any other raid buff. That's fine. You need 4 required classes for this, just like Gahoon, and it sucks,
dude. At what time of Dimensius did you guys end up killing the boss this week?
We did Buyer, so
Oh, you did
we
with the
killed
Buyer.
it halfway between toes, the two toe sets.
Okay. Growl,
What was the question?
where did you guys kill Dimensius this week? Like what part of the
Like
fight?
how long into phase 3?
Yeah,
By kill, you mean?
he died.
Did you not kill it this week?
It's not a trick question.
Unfortunately, we did not kill it this week.
Okay. I'm like...
Okay, anyway. Dude, we killed it right after the second devour. Like, literally, like, right after the second devour, the plants are exploding. We were like, wait, the boss is fucking dead. Hold on.
Wait, you're gonna just get to skip second devour, like, really, really soon, I think. Like, it's gonna be nice, but we'll see what happens. I don't think they're gonna do any more nerfs, unfortunately, and as much as I want them to.
I think they should have given you an additional stack of the, whenever you have to look in the ad on Salhadar, I think they should have given you or actually one less stack of the ghost. That way you can mess up once and be fine.
The clone thing fixes that. I think that's fine.
Oh, you think it fixes it? Okay.
I think I like the fact is, yes, I agree with you. It was like I even said it was way too punishing. Just missing a single ghost, missing a single soak, you just die.
It feels
But
really
now-
tough, yeah.
But now if you like with the Conquer nerf, you can almost assuredly soak the wrong soak the tank Conquer and live with like heavy personals if you
Yeah.
really need to recoup that stack. Or you just get cloned at the end of the phase, and then like who cares anyways?
Okay, the cyclone thing, I'm surprised that they haven't fixed that.
I don't think they're gonna fix it at this point. They probably would have fixed it at this point. The problem is you can only bring as many like a single clone is death you can only clone as many people as you have druids. And if it's more than 2, they still AoE when the timer expires. So you still get that raid wide damage.
That's weird.
Which means if there's more than like 3 people, your raid probably wipes there still.
I actually think being able to clone people there is good.
I
think it's not. I don't think that's intended design, but I think like, okay, we lost a little bit of damage, and our druid has to do this stupid thing, but like we cannot let like this person won't die here. But it's not like something we can do throughout the fight, right? It's only that one mechanic. Basically, you can save 1 to 2 people from that one mechanic. Considering that, like,
damage.
yeah, I think it's fine. Although I also agree with you that I'm surprised that they didn't fix it. I don't know. I think that Salad Bar wasn't too bad. I mean, it's the second to last boss on the last raid of the expansion, so also none of the other bosses were really that hard and have gotten nerfed since, so I don't really think it's terrible that boss is still hard. I don't know. I mean, our guild literally one-shot that boss. We didn't kill Dimensius, and we one-shot Salad Bar.
They made Salhadar way easier, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
There was a Preach interview, and Preach had a dev interview with Paul Kubit, and they discussed, random stuff, where like remix and stuff like that. But I think that one of the most interesting things that they were talking about is the Staggered raid release. They kind of gave some insight as to what was going on with the raid release, and basically kind of said that they decided to split up the raids based on player feedback, and the team was looking to shake things up after having already built several 8-boss raids in a row. The initial plan was just for 2 raids, which turned into 3 with the additional Dream Rift. And what are your guys' thoughts about this? Because I feel like this, for me, I think Growl said something where earlier, I think he was talking about Remix, where he's like, Blizzard should just be in the design space of making stuff that's super fun. And I feel like with raids too, whenever things are too formulaic, you kind of sacrifice fun for that, competitiveness or whatever that players will sometimes tell you that they want. But I think that for going for this, I think it's really interesting that they're doing a 3 dungeon raid. What are you guys thinking about that?
Well, so there's a total of 8 bosses, right? In between the 3, or is it 9?
I think it's 9, yeah.
So the thing that I really don't like about it is how it doesn't really feel like we're gaining that much, right? Like, it almost feels like it's being taken away from the first raid. Like, if they would have said, okay, we're doing an 8-boss raid, then another 2-boss raid, then a 1-boss raid, we'd be like, oh, sick, we're getting this. But it almost feels like they're just taking the last 2 bosses from the first raid and making it so you can't play them on the first week. is what it feels like. So while I appreciate what he said about how, oh, we're doing this based off player feedback to shake things up, this doesn't feel like shaking things up in a good way because, number one, it wasn't a surprise, right? If they would have just come out 2 months into the patch and it's like, oh, the Dream Rift has opened and there's a new raid boss here and you guys can fight it now and no one knew about it, that would be sick.
That would be insane.
Right? Yeah. Or if there was more bosses and it was like, okay, here's your normal 8-boss raid. It's going to be just like it always is with the 8-boss raid, but now you're getting these other 2. But I feel like it just doesn't sit well with me, I guess, and it feels like they're not doing a good job of shaking things up in a way that makes it feel like we're getting something that's more fun or more interesting.
I'm kind of okay with this, to be honest. I personally like the change. I think it'll lead to like some maybe more interesting decisions.
Yeah.
As to how the as to how like players are gonna do things. Like 2 weeks though is a little weird because it's like not enough time for like people to be gear capped, but it's like and people to be done the first raid, but it's too short. Sorry, did I say that right? It's too short for people to be gear capped, but too long for it to be like constant progression.
Yeah. I think that depends on what kind of guild you're in, though.
That's true, but like it's gonna be different for everyone. Like obviously, the Race World First guilds are probably gonna be done in those 2 weeks, and then they'll go straight into the next one. Like, but
I feel like most
for
guilds
like
don't
our
have
guilds,
6 mythic bosses killed in 2 weeks. That would mean they get Fractalus and Soul Hunters dead in 2 full lockouts, which that's about right, but like it's not exact.
Do you feel like this could potentially be an answer to the problems with the difficulty curve that they've had in this expansion, where they're, like you have these middling bosses that are either impossibly difficult or pushovers, and so now they're like, okay, well, let's make a 6-boss raid, and if the 5th and 6th boss are insanely tough, well, it won't really feel that bad because you don't even get a 7th and 8th boss anyway, right? And then by the time that those bosses come out, they have way more data and tuning, and I don't like, just nothing about this feels like this is for us or it feels good. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear, because like I have a very specific view of the raid as somebody who's a mythic raider, right? So I'm interested to hear what people think in the comments who are mostly like Pug the raid or do other stuff. Like, is this something that you guys think is cool, or do you like? To me, it feels like almost a really weird time gating like thing, doesn't it?
Okay, so they did say stuff about the raid difficulty progression. They said the 6th boss Void Spire will have a difficulty similar to previous 8 boss raids, with the single boss inside the Dream Rift falling somewhere in the middle of that progression, since players will already have some gear by the time it releases. The final 2 bosses in March of Keldanos will be a bit harder. The first is probably not as hard as the last boss in Void Spire, but the final boss should be the exclamation point at the end of Season 1. And to answer your question, Growl, I would pose almost a question in rebuttal. It's like, do you think that this is happening because of the patch cadence that we've been seeing over the course of the War Within, where they have pretty accelerated their patch cadence? I think that's like undeniable at this point. Our patch cadence is way faster than it has been in the past.
I feel like we have to go into the Scarizard interview if you want to go down that road, because that was a huge part of that was really compelling.
I my personal opinion is I actually think this is more of a story choice than anything else.
Okay.
Blizzard tends to really like their story decisions more than anything else. Like overriding a lot sometimes in even the gameplay aspect of things. Like they choose their dungeons a lot of the time based on the story, right? Like Season 1 of Midnight, very, very heavily influenced by the story. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason. Like the 2-week delay is due to story reasons, because you probably get an epilogue after the first raid, and then give the 2 weeks for people to finish that epilogue, consume that before going into the finale of the third raid. That would be my guess. It just makes more sense that way rather than like people consuming the first like the content, or like consuming the content in the wrong order story wise. Then people get spoiled, and then it's like I think that's what the main reason probably would be.
I think people are getting spoiled regardless, right? Well,
probably, considering EU servers are up, 14 hours after an ace.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that take. I think it is better from a story perspective, depending on the arc that they choose to potentially delay bosses or let things play out and for players to think about them before you move on to the exclamation point, as they put it.
I do think that this structure of raids can be interesting, at least from a player perspective. Probably bad for a race roll first perspective. To be very honest, like I read how this is structured from a race roll first perspective, and I think about it like that, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look very good. Because like, what part of this matters? It's like the last boss. Like, are you really gonna do a race roll first broadcast product for a 2-boss raid? And you're like, probably not. It's just
depends how hard it is, right?
I mean,
that could be the more interesting one.
Yeah, if it's really hard. Yeah, but like if it's really hard,
because realistically, like especially with splits, I believe that the majority of viewers probably don't watch the middle or even early bosses that much, because you don't know when they tune in, because the first half of the week is just splits. They eventually just walk into Mythic, and you don't know exactly when that is unless you're following along 24/7. Then they're suddenly in Mythic. And then you miss the first few bosses because they usually get one shot. And by the time you start watching, it's usually the last couple bosses. That's when the hype really comes out. So, like, realistically, the last 2 bosses are probably the most interesting ones to watch in the first place.
Yeah, I do think it would be hard to like justify like an in-person race rolled first for any of the top 3 guilds, though. I feel like.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's the most unfortunate casualty of this whole thing, right? Because a lot of us, and a lot of people who don't even play WoW, enjoy tuning into the race world first to see the bosses and to follow the narrative and understand what's happening. And the way that it's rolling out, I think, is going to make it incredibly difficult for even like the top guilds with orgs and stuff to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see what they come up with, because I think, like Squishy said, there is opportunity there, right? Like, a lot of people want to watch these hard bosses, and they could get viewership on something if it's well produced and people are excited for it. But how do they pull it off is the question, and I don't really know. And again, it's not to keep echoing the same point, but I'm all for like doing things that are better for the community, even if it hurts the race world first. But again, this doesn't really feel like this is good for us, right? Like, it doesn't feel like we're gaining that much by this delayed raid release. And we're potentially like making the race world first a lot less fun to watch for everybody, right? Like they claim, interesting, I actually didn't catch that line in the interview you pointed out, that they claim that the 6-boss raid will have similar difficulty to an 8-boss raid. Did I read that right? That like it should be no different from, say, Nerebar Palace, just their 6 bosses instead of 8.
Don't use Nerebar Palace. But yes, they did say similar difficulty to previous 8-boss raids.
I think it's unclear exactly if that means like they're stretching the 6 to equal 8 in terms of difficulty progression, or if that means there's 6 bosses, like the first 6 bosses of an 8-boss raid.
I mean, those are radically different things, right?
Very different, yeah.
I don't think if they... No, I don't. I think if they say it has similar difficulty to an 8-boss raid, that would not be fair for them to mean it has similar difficulty of this raid up to Fractalus.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could have literally cleared that in one day, right? Okay, well, maybe not Forge Weaver pre-nerf and Soul Hunters pre-nerf, but you get, like, if they would have hit the difficulty and how they intended, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to talk about the Scarizard interview? What part of this did you want to bring up first? Did you want to play the clip first? Do you want to talk about?
I want to do the clip first, because that is a fantastic clip.
All right, let me unmute this.
Because dungeons historically have over-rewarded for less effort, right? And I don't mean like the sickos at the absolute top end, right? But if you compare especially what it used to take, I think now maybe it's a little harder, but compare what it takes to get a myth piece out of your vault for doing a dungeon versus getting a myth piece out of your vault for a raid. It's incomparable, right? The amount of effort and the amount of coordination is crazy, right? Because dungeons...
All right.
I think it's a discussion that people are not ready to have, but he is right.
we are having the discussion. Growl, did you watch the clip, right?
Yeah, sorry, my audio was messed up, but this was in reference to dungeons being more reward, like a much better ratio of how rewarding they are and how difficult. Well, I don't know. I thought this was pretty well accepted and pretty standard. And the way that it plays out is that dungeon rewards are gated, right? Like when he is talking about dungeons being insanely rewarding, he's mainly talking about either when your character's brand new and you're gearing up, or your weekly vault, right? But both of those things are very limited in scope to how you can gear your guy. You know, for example, once you get decent gear, almost all the dungeon gear you get is like pretty wasted, or it's not even an upgrade, but you're still farming raids over and over again for those important cantrip items. And then in terms of the vault, it's like, well, the vault is basically a freebie gimme at this point. It's like barely even, you know, I almost like don't even really relate that to you know, that's just like, it feels like a handout sort of thing.
It's a freebie gimme for Mythic Plus players. It's not a freebie gimme for raiders. You have to actually kill the fucking bosses to actually unlock the slots for raiders, right?
Yeah. But I mean, once you have the bosses on farm and you're in a guild, like, that's
when you're in a guild, I think is an important distinction to make here too.
I mean, like,
but that's one reward, right? Like, it's not like you get this bonus thing if you're a Mythic Plus player. Like, it's basically the Mythic Plus vault is you can do dungeons to get like like you basically barely, like, especially compared to how good the raid vault is now with the crest saving and all the good items from it. Like, the Mythic Plus vault is not really that good. Like, I'm not saying, like, I agree 100%. I agree with the idea 100% that the Mythic Plus vault slots, if you're like decently geared or you play Mythic Plus at all, are like very easy to obtain, and they're basically just like a weekly chore. But I mean, like, you know, that's like comparing the time walking quest that you get once a month that you get a raid item to the raid. It's like, well, yeah, this is way easier, but it's like basically a gimme freebie, like for fun thing that they do. It's not really like an important, I don't know. I guess I don't, like, I thought it was kind of a normal take that he had. No?
I think it is a very, like, that is the realistic take, but I don't think people, like, it's probably just going to spawn a lot of arguments over that, because people don't want their content to be deemed as easy or hard, right? Like, they want to be doing the prestige content. And the truth is, like, the floor and the ceiling of Mythic Plus is lower, right? Like, that's been known for a while. The ease of access to Mythtrack loot in Mythic Plus is easier, and the amount of Mythtrack loot that you can get in Mythic Plus is also lower than raid.
When you say the ceiling is lower, I don't think you're talking about the reward ceiling. You're talking about the reward ceiling. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you're talking about
he acknowledges in the interview that if you're somebody who does really, really high keys, they consider you a very good player, and you are skilled, and you deserve to have among the best gear in the game. Like, he says that in the interview, right? Like, I don't think this is a matter of, I think if you, yeah, that's a 23-second clip, but I think if you watch this and you take from it that he thinks that raid is hard and M+ is easy or whatever, that's completely distant.
No,
that's something that someone in the YouTube comments would do.
I don't think that's correct, but I do think that what he said is kind of, at least in my interpretation, it's the reason that Blizzard made 10 so fucking hard at the beginning of the War Within, right? And they made 12 so hard at the beginning of the War Within. I think that's I don't know this for certain, but I would believe that to be the case, right? They were trying to make sure that the difficulty and the rewards matched one another, and then people were really mad. They were like, "No, hold on, hold on."
Well, the biggest problem there is that you're taking something that a lot of people had and they have the expectation of having, and you're taking it away, right? It's like very similar to the add-ons, where Tunnels left, talk about add-ons. Tunnels left, talk about add-ons. The way I sort of see it is like, okay, let's say you play a brand new game, right, like Fellowship or whatever, and they don't have all these crazy features like weak auras. You don't really bat an eye, right? Like, you maybe think about it, oh, this new game doesn't have all this customization. But because we've played WoW so long and we're used to all this stuff, and now they're taking it away, it feels bad, right? Like, you're used to being able to see your teammates' kicks and track cooldowns and change the way stuff is displayed on the frame, and now not having it is going to feel a lot worse, right? And that's sort of what I think about the dungeon rewards is, you know, if you look at it in a vacuum and you look at the difficulty of what a 10 was in the beginning of the season versus killing mythic bosses, yeah, it was more even, right? Like, I understand why they did that, but considering that just the patch before that, 10s were a complete freebie and you're expecting to get vaults on all your guys and now you don't, that's what feels bad, and that's what sort of created that outrage.
Yeah. But
I just wanted to highlight that portion of the clip just because I thought it was interesting to hear it directly from someone who formerly worked at Blizzard, right? Like that is a very, very interesting thing to hear that they even acknowledge that.
is it a problem? I guess is a different question, right? I think the answer is probably no.
I don't think so. Like, is it a direct problem? No, but because they have to determine what is the best for the health of the game, and changing that and taking that myth track loot away from people would probably cause a significant strain on the health of the game. Same thing as trying to make the Mythic Plus dungeons harder, right? Like, there's a reason that this season especially, 10s went by so quickly. They were way easier than season 1.
Tazavesh hard mode didn't though.
Tazavesh, so that was the other thing, another thing they discussed. They discussed Tazavesh hard mode. They wanted a pinnacle reward for Mythic Plus. And, he talks about the anxiety of it, which, is something that I've talked about in the past. And I mean, he acknowledged my points, and I'm happy with that. Growl, if you want to talk about it more,
Yeah, first of all, I want to say big shout out to this episode. This was such a good episode. I feel like Scarizard is a little bit of my spirit animal in here. I could see I believe he was shuffling like a deck of cards while he was talking. I don't know if anybody caught that. Also, he would certain things would proc him in the same way that I get procced, and you would just hear the volume go up and just be yelling. And I'm like, yes, tell him. So I was actually, I was out and about and somewhere that I didn't want to be, and that episode popped up in my phone, and I was able to jam to that and get through the day. So that was a huge, I love that. Going back to the interview of the whole, or was there Tazavesh hard mode? It was interesting that the way that he talked about it, right? Because he actually mentioned that this was something that they discussed for a long time, and they wanted to figure out exactly a good way to iterate on it. He was also talking about sort of the design of different bosses and dungeons, and how, some of the Tazavesh hard mode was a little bit of not an afterthought, but was extremely punishing and difficult compared to other bosses, right? Especially because they've iterated on it even more this patch, and they've changed it differently from how it was when it was originally hard mode. But he seemed positive about it. And I don't know. I think I liked it. I liked most of the things that he had to say. I liked. Yeah, it was a very, very good interview. I mostly agreed on everything he said about hard mode, I think.
Yeah. I think that the important thing is at the very beginning of the season, people were very mad about hard mode Taz because to them the thought of failing it vastly outweighed what actually it took, or the concept of succeeding it. And that, I think, was at least psychologically kind of an interesting thing, where from a reward standpoint, I don't really know how you're supposed to address that. But I will say, everything that he said in the interview in regards to creating a pinnacle endeavor, trying to tackle the frustrations that players might have, those kind of things, I do agree with what he was saying. I really hope that they continue to do stuff like this for Mythic Plus, because I think that this is the kind of stuff that Mythic Plusers want, where, maybe it's not like deathless hard mode Tazavesh, but, this 5-man non-structure, non-raid content, that there's still some progression based in, and eventually you'll be able to achieve it, right? And it gives you more opportunities to get myth track loot that aren't just from the vault, where you can go above and beyond with your skill set and actually be able to obtain them. Now, I do think the downside of this is that you only get gear from Tazavesh. Not really in love with that. But I do think they're starting in the right place.
It's an interesting thing, right, to talk about. I think it's beneficial for a lot of people. It's also a great spectator event. I think someone like Squishy is the exact definition of a person who it is terrible for, though, right? Somebody who enjoys the game and is very good at the game and wants to play it at a high level with his friends, but at the same time, the activities you do in the game don't really have that level of stress or failure, right? It's sort of it probably feels bad to throw a big pull on a tough boss, but ultimately you're not losing gear or setting your teammates back in a way that feels really bad like that, right? So I think that for a lot of people in that boat, it is a little bit tough, and I understand that. But there also are a lot of people that really, really enjoy it, right? And I also think that if you're somebody who I would be interested to hear how many people sort of made friends or found groups or did, you know what I mean? Like, one common thing that I heard at the beginning of this patch was, this is impossible for me. Like, I just LFG. How the heck am I supposed to do this Tazavesh, right? And I'm sure a lot of people just gave up on it until they got very geared. But I'm sure there was some amount of people that looked through LFG or maybe made some friends or network and ended up finding people and playing that and doing this and getting rewarded from it. And I think that those are also huge success stories or wins that will, it's a polarizing system to say the least. And I think that, and this is something we'll talk about later in the interview too, but I do think that WoW tends to play a bit too safe with things. And so that's kind of why I don't mind them erring in this side of like doing something a little bit risky.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention in this interview was the faster content cycles, because that was a pretty big thing that he touched on. And, he was talking about how, WoW's content has obviously sped up. A lot of people have noticed it. I think it's, there's some number that everybody goes off of for how often the patches are apart.
It's pretty undeniable, though, that it's faster.
Yes. And, it creates a situation where it's harder to take risks or mitigate when things go poorly. There's a reason, people have noticed that at a patch launch, sometimes there's versioning issues. There's a lot of bugs, classes don't work properly and stuff like that. And sometimes, the pacing just feels too fast that Blizzard is not able to keep up. But it's like, can they slow this ship down now is the real question.
I will say, the thing that I've noticed the most that has changed from previous expansions to this pacing is class design. And I think class design has been the thing that, at least in my mind, has suffered the most, where, at least on expansion launches, you were like really, really excited to play your class. You were getting a bunch of new stuff. There was like a new borrowed power system. There's a bunch of just like new and unique things. But I think that like since the uptick of pacing, there's been a lot fewer individual class changes. There's like, patch to patch, there's a lot fewer class changes. And it feels like they're always trying to catch up as opposed to, delivering classes that go above and beyond. They're delivering stuff that's like acceptable from a class perspective. And I think that there's like a difference there. Where it's like, the expansion launches or whatever, and all the classes are fine, like in the sense that you could log into them and they don't crash your game. But they're not like, oh shit, this is the greatest I've ever experienced. This is the greatest thing I've ever experienced. And I think that that's been something that's, at least in my opinion, been the biggest detriment to the faster content cycles is the class development. But I do think from like a Mythic Plus perspective and from a raid perspective, it is really good to have faster content cycles.
I agree. I mean, I think there's some fundamental things that Blizzard needs to look at, though, like the hitching that's been going on for like 2 patches now.
Oh, like
where your screen just
lockups.
Where your screen you just freeze for 5 seconds. You're like, guys, I'm locked up. Like, give me like 5 seconds, I'll be back. Like, it's just a known thing if you raid at this point, that hitching just happens, and it sucks. And I wish that would be fixed, but it's just not happening right now. So, I think
it was very, very interesting to hear him talk about content pacing. And I think, whatever, I'm going to make people in the YouTube comments mad, and I'm going to get called the Blizzard shill here. But a lot of people are going to listen to this and think, yeah, Blizzard bad, bad content, they're overworking people, blah, blah, blah. But I swear, I lived through BFA and Shadowlands, and there was a lot of shit that Blizzard did wrong that caused this, don't get me wrong, but also there was huge pressure, and people get very, very mad when the content pacing is slow. Thinking back to WoD, which a lot of people say is like the worst expansion ever, which when you talk to a lot of people who enjoy the game, they actually liked some of the class design and raid design in WoD, but it was literally just the lack of content and the long periods of nothing is what made people hate WoD. Shadowlands had its own slew of problems, but the lack of content there was also a huge part of it. And also, while they're rolling out content, I think universally in these last couple expansions, starting with Dragonflight, I guess, we were very positive about it, right? We're like, oh yeah, them doing Plunderstorm is awesome. Even really not great stuff like dynamic duos or whatever. It was dastardly duos or whatever. We laughed about it, but at the same time, we're like, hey, at least they're doing something, right? Maybe there are people for this, But Scarizard brought up some very interesting points here, and talking about playing things safe. He mentioned that it's a lot harder to make really, really good stuff when you're in this rush and you're trying to get things out for this timeline. And you might not see that as the end user, but I don't remember exactly how he put it, but like he was basically talking about something that was really well designed, and he said, "How many of those did we miss because of this?" Right? Like how many. Like we sort of have this expectation that we go into the raid and it's like, you know, most of the raid bosses are sort of not memorable or whatever. But if Blizzard took an entire year to design every raid, how many raids could have been a lot more cooler and a lot more interesting? And it got me not necessarily thinking that he was 100% right or that I was unhappy with the content cadence, but I always love a good thunk about the pros and cons of two different things, right? And very clearly he demonstrated here that it is not no cost to us to sit here and demand content and to be mad about lulls, because how much good stuff are we missing when they keep rushing stuff out or they want to keep this cadence going?
I mean, I think the unfortunate reality of the situation is that it is better for them money-wise, and honestly, I think it's better as a consumer for them to, you know, get the content to 90% of the way there and try to play catch-up on the final 10%. Because that kind of feels like that's what's happening, and, you know, like, all right, we can only be sitting in a patch for so long, because that first 90%, you know, isn't like, it's not most of the effort. Getting that final 10% all the way there is a lot of effort. Equal effort, maybe even to the first 90% when you're like, oh, shit.
The other thing that was interesting from this is he mentioned Apex talents.
Oh.
And the fact that Apex talents were probably in a conversation before I left, I had never heard the words Apex talents. I didn't know they were going to do new hero talents or anything like that. So I have to imagine that those people are absolutely face going to get a lot of stuff from Midnight Out. He left 3 months ago.
He was on rewards.
He was on rewards. So he might not have known, but that's still like a very, very short time frame. And as classes, which is the thing people care the most about, that is a really short time frame, in my opinion.
I think Apex talents are most similar to tier sets in terms of their impact level, which makes me think that they could probably just rush them out as long as they make sense.
They pitched them as this really cool thing, and the ones we've seen so far are not a very cool thing.
They're an okay thing.
It was so weird.
As a spec that has theirs, they're okay. Like, they're fine.
It's like, remember when they announced like on the box of BFA, Warfronts as this big new thing, and it turned out to be Warfronts? That's how Apex Talents is feeling right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think that Apex Talents are that big. I think we're about to get the exact same class that you've had since the beginning of Dragonflight for Midnight. Like, if you're happy with your class in War Within and Midnight, or in Dragonflight, you know, and maybe it's getting less complicated, you're probably going to be about the exact same level of happiness going into Midnight.
Well, at this point, we are understanding a lot more of what the phrase evergreen system means, I think, when they talked about Dragonflight and now going into War Within. I think when it comes to these things that, you know, if I'm thinking about how well they did, feel so much better than BFA and Shadowlands. So when I think about class balance, generally speaking, not always, I think class balance has been very good this expansion.
So much better.
I think in terms of dungeon and raid tuning, addressing major problems that happen in both, I think they're much better, especially M+. Raid has kind of always been their baby a little bit, but the tuning and level of attention that they've given to Mythic Plus this expansion is like insane. You know, in BFA and Legion, you'd get in dungeon and it would be a total mess for like half of the expansion, and you'd be shocked when you would see dungeon tuning notes in those expansions. But nowadays it's like, you know, oh wow, Priory has been so hard for this amount of time, this is crazy. Like, it is nothing like it was in those expansions. And there's still more, you know, this content cadence cycle of some other stuff going on too, right? With remixes, with Plunder. I keep saying Plunderstorm. It's been a while since they've done something like that.
Duos,
now,
of course.
Dastardly Duos, right? So they're still doing some stuff, right? Like, there's way more than we had in BFA and Shadowlands, right? That's my benchmark to like the early, you know, the earlier Mythic Plus times of like the modern WoW era. So it feels like to me that they're doing pretty well. I would say the biggest downsides of where this rushed content shows is how buggy and strange things launch when there are like these weird, class bugs or weird server lag things that are related to the game, not necessarily just their server. Stuff like I remember the shaman, like what is it, Withering Waves with Cloudburst or something, is just like still lagging people's games when you use them, like, to any level of potency. That's where I feel like you're noticing the rushed content or the unfinished stuff. But for the most part, I'm not unhappy with the dungeons and if anything, like Floodgate and Ecodome, I think are two of their better dungeons that they've made so far. So yeah, I don't know. I think that he is on the inside and he sees all this, and I 100% agree with him, right? Like, if they're doing this on a rush schedule where people are feeling a lot more pressure, maybe they could have came out with the craziest dungeons and raid bosses that we've ever seen if they slowed it down a little bit. I don't know, but so I believe him, but at the same time, I'm not unhappy with the content that we've got. Like, I've loved War Within. Like, I think this has been a great expansion, at least for me.
I think that I tend to agree that the content has been really good. I think that the thing, and I just really want to reemphasize this, I think the thing that's been lacking is class design. I think that they've been really struggling with class design. I think that hero talents were, at least in my opinion, a miss. I don't really like hero talents, and I don't think that hero talents are like that cool. Maybe it's just like, I don't think we need borrowed power back, but we needed hero talents to do what they said that they were going to do. And hero talents are very much your mileage may vary. Like, it is not cool for a lot of specs, but it is cool for some specs.
Yeah. Sea Rogue.
Yeah, Druid's also abominable.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fucking bad.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about add-ons again.
What? What even is there to talk about with add-ons? What is
so if you go to the Weakwares, the Weakwares tweet, so the Weakwares and other add-on developers got a list of changes that are coming in an upcoming alpha build. So basically, it's the long story short is not much is changing based on what people want. Basically, as of right now, as previously noted, the top part is basically right now you can't use add-ons entirely while inside an instance. They're changing it so that it is only in combat while inside an instance. Makes total sense. People were trying to do workarounds with nameplates because right now with nameplates you can't shorten the name, you can't rename things, you can't color nameplates. But in a Mythic Plus dungeon, when you drop combat, the secret all this black boxes open up, meaning between combat sessions, if you dropped combat, your nameplates could reorganize correctly and recolor and rename and stuff like that. They're making it so that when you're in a dungeon altogether, it is now going to be locked in combat to prevent that. They are really locking down on this kind of thing, it seems like. Basically, some other stuff, they're adding percentage health because it is literally physically impossible previously to get percent health because they didn't know what values they were calculating. They were just showing the values that Blizzard gave them. So you'll actually get access to percent health now.
Yeah.
And then basically just some other stuff. The big one here being coming soon in Alpha Form Beyond, unit identity access. They confirm that access to creature unit names, GUIDs, NIDs, aka everything regarding nameplates, will be made secret while in instance and no longer be based on combat state. So looks like there's absolutely no backtracking on better nameplates as of right now.
They had some problems with the nameplates. I think that there's some stacking issues that they're gonna have to be looking. Did you see
the Kalamazoo clip?
No.
Oh my god, hold on. Let me
So I don't even know what's going on in the Kalamazoo clip, but the nameplate stacking, I don't even know what the fuck is happening. It's like they want to prioritize nameplates being in a certain position on your screen, and they float around like a screensaver from a mid 2000s computer, and you're just like, why are you moving? Stop. Like
is it like the DVD thing where you're waiting for it to hit the corner?
Kinda. It's like the bubble screensaver from like a 2000s computer.
Yeah, this is it. This shows you it. There you go.
Why are they moving? Like, genuinely, why are they fucking moving? And then, see, that's the problem with them. I think they try to put them. I don't know what the logic is, but you're gonna have to mess around with CVARs a little bit, and also the hitboxes on default nameplates is pretty bad. So they got some work to do with the nameplates. I think that I would like for them to be able to recolor mob ID, recolor nameplates based off mob ID. and whitelist. I think they need like a whitelist and blacklist for buffs and debuffs, kind of like Grout was saying yesterday or last week. I think that there's some things that the features that we're kind of missing. But,
yeah, I think the two big ones that are lacking in the current game, where pretty much almost everybody unanimously uses an add-on for, are the nameplates and party frames. There are some people that use base party. I feel like almost nobody uses base nameplates.
Base nameplates are fucking bad. Like genuinely,
they're terrible.
Generational disadvantage if you're using base nameplates currently.
So I think that is for sure where they need the most attention and where they need the most feedback. We've seen a lot of people tinkering and trying stuff and figuring out, like now that they basically finally got the next wave into alpha. There was like the content creator whatever hype thing that we did, and then now they're actually like getting people into the alpha to test stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've been in. I just am slowly deliberating and pondering the type of content at which I would like to create.
Wait, was it
for the alpha.
Dorky that wasn't in?
Yeah, it's Dorky that wasn't in.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
he is in now too, though. He had a nice alpha tank stream the other day. But yeah, I think for me, most important features are going to be whitelist and blacklist on things. And this is tough because this is kind of like a nerdy add-on-y thing, right?
Yes.
Like there hasn't really been a feature like this in the game to do this sort of thing. So this really needs to, but it really needs to be in the game, right? Because the way I sort of see it is what they're struggling with class design right now is like there are some buffs and debuffs that are very, very not impactful, but some people like the small little things that you can min-max, right? And so, for instance, when I'm learning a new class, I might hide a lot of things from my UI that feel very cluttery to me that I'm not ready to use yet, right? Like small procs, or just like, things that I'm not really paying attention to, and then I'll add them back in later. And I think making the having the expectation that when you load up your class, it's going to show you literally every single thing that you need to see, but also not be overwhelming for a new player is a very tough goal to meet. And I think that that's like a lot of the blowback that we've seen on the class design and class changes is I think them trying to do that. But I really do think that creating an elegant blacklist, whitelist situation with buffs and debuffs is going to be the best solution to that by far.
Yeah. I think for me, I think the resource bar is the biggest thing. Like I play with pretty close to default stuff anyways. So like I don't need too much more. I know others play with a lot more, but I think that's the one for me. I know the other thing that I've heard a lot about is renaming nameplates. I don't necessarily think it is necessary, but I understand why people want it. Because seeing depraved as the only thing on 5 mobs doesn't exactly help you tell what that mob is.
So there is going to be a way of getting a resource bar.
Is there?
Some Moonkin player has been cooking up an add-on for it. Just a resource bar. That's all you're getting, though, is just a resource bar that lists your current energy, or your current power, rather. And it might just be for balanced druids, but in theory, it should work for all classes, right? The one that he's making is just for us, but like...
Yeah, I think an interesting idea, and it's going to sound like I'm flip-flopping here, but just hear me out a little bit, in that I think it would be maybe an interesting or productive idea for Blizzard here to give somewhere just to sort of offload the work requirements that they have on release, right? Like, for example, maybe say, oh, look, we're not going to be able to get a good week or a HUD UI style thing and party frames and nameplates. So, maybe do we keep party frame add-ons, or do we keep plater, or do we, something that they can just say, hey, let's push this down the road. Because I was very pro this change, and look, I'll still be happy with it very likely no matter what, because I just don't really have that much fun with weak orders and add-ons, and I don't value those very highly for my playing experience. But I also know that, looking at all this stuff that they have to do, it does seem pretty unlikely that they're going to have it all in a good state and ready. And so, would it really be the end of the world to just leave Plater for another expansion? And then it seems very awkward and weird and not eloquent. So I don't think they would do that. But I don't know. That's sort of how I'm kind of feeling about it now, is like,
I think that the number one thing that they have to get right is their cooldown manager. Like, I think their cooldown manager should be like top priority to fix from their UI perspective. Obviously, from the game, not from the game perspective, but from their UI perspective, the cooldown manager and getting that to be, I would argue, as close as what most people have with contemporary weak auras right now. That it, in my mind, needs to happen.
Like, the resource bar definitely feels like a problem right now with the current system. Like, to me, that's one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
And I would like to, what I sort of envision for like a built-in Blizzard resource tracker system is like, maybe there are different modes. So like, let's say you have classic, which is like whatever is in the game now. Then you can click a drop down and you get like something that's very like blocky, like bars, like that looks the same for every class, sort of like, you know, maybe like Affinar's pack or whatever that you might think of. Yeah. And then maybe another one that's like fancy or artsy that like, and it might not even be ready for every class yet, but like, you know, the people that like the fancier like symbols and funky looking stuff that they do with their UI. Like I think having a classic, a fancy, and a functional option for every resource, and being able to obviously separate that from your player health or whatever is going to be important.
You're going to download it. You're going to download an add-on for it as it currently stands, at least. Which, I mean, like I downloaded an add-on before.
Well, and again, like what I'm talking about there is all appearance and customization, right? Like,
yes.
If this add-on isn't doing calculations for you, like again, to me, that's no problem, right? Like if you think that the classic resource tracker stuff is ugly, but
yeah,
you know, if the in-game resource thing is not showing you things and then an add-on is showing you, which I don't even think is possible with the current system, that's obviously a really big problem.
I heard they added in a num call for player power, like resource power. So there's a chance that they might be looking to do some
maybe
some pre like determining what amount of resources you're going to get after a cast concludes tracking.
I think the big thing here is they seem to be moving away not from the only reason for them to be removing add-ons is just computational add-ons. I think they're actually doing a dual purpose now. Computational add-ons for raid, but also ease of access of the game. I actually think that's part two. And I don't think they've explicitly said that very often, which is part of the problem. And people are like, why can't I have my nameplates? Why can't I have my unit frames? And the reason is I think that Blizzard doesn't want you to have them because they show you things clearer than other people, and downloading an add-on sucks for new players.
And I mean, I tend to agree that like the game should be easy to access as a new player. Like I think that's correct. Like I think
yeah.
It should be. And
it's just that nature of WoW. Oh, sorry, you can go ahead.
No, as I say, and like of course, like all of us, we've played the game for years and years and years at this point, so we have no problem with the add-ons. So like, you know, like what does it affect me? It doesn't affect me at all. I've already got all my add-ons on my UI set up properly. But for people who maybe are newly starting, I think Growl mentioned this the other day, where he has people in his chat come in sometimes and be like, I started recently and then I had all these problems with add-ons. That happens. That genuinely does happen, where it's just like you start and you're like, where do I begin? And they tell you to download 10 add-ons and you're like, this is overwhelming, this sucks.
Yep.
Yeah, what I was just going to say is like there's this idea, and it's not just WoW, but it's very much emphasized in WoW that you want to do the best that you can, right? Like, for example, let's say there's two different builds for your class. One is significantly easier or more fun, but you maybe lose some amount of damage or healing, right? Where is that number where you're going to switch, right? For a lot of people, I feel like that number is way too small, right? Like, oh, I'm losing 3% damage. Nope, I'm going to play this build that makes me miserable, you know, like, but at the same time, like, there is sort of that situation where with add-ons too, of, you know, you can say, oh, just don't use them, forehead, but ultimately, you know, if add-ons are going to help you gain X%, at some point, a majority of the WoW community is going to make themselves feel like they're mandatory, and therefore now that is the new player experience, right?
Yep.
And so
I don't need to wear shoes whenever I walk out of the house either, but it's gonna hurt my fucking feet to not wear shoes.
Yeah. Well, right, and I just think that they want that. I think in undertaking this journey, maybe they underestimated like how much stuff they would really have to rip out of add-ons in order to meet that goal of making people feel like they don't have to download them, to the point where it's the WoW community, so it's literally everything. Like, add-ons cannot provide you any amount of value whatsoever, or people will just never use the base UI because that's how we all are.
Correct. Just two other things that are actually apparently coming. The first is add-ons will be able to adjust the color of a unit frame health based on health percentage. Really, really good for healers. So you can, change your color to yellow when you're half health and red to when you're critical.
I don't know why you would do that. That's ugly.
Yeah.
That's like the Zyrotic gameplay. Those things are hideous. Or the party frame things, but those are hideous.
And then the second thing is abbreviating numbers, so you don't see like 1,0000000. You see 1M or something.
And I think these are the kind of feedback that you need to continue to give Blizzard, like, because stuff like that, I don't say clearly, but Blizzard was like, oh, that wasn't intended. We'll fix that, right? And that's kind of the feedback that you need to be giving them. Is like, what are the features that you, as a player, you're like, I need this. What I don't need is the TTS lady telling me all the mechanics to do. It's like, what do I really like? What do you feel like you need? And I think that's kind of
on that note, Tettles, in a recent PC Gamer interview, basically Blizzard announces that the sound is coming, audio cues for the player class cooldown manager tool. Options include assigning sounds or text-to-speech to abilities coming off cooldown or a variety of other event states.
I strongly disagree. TTS is just so bad for raid. Telling you all of the raid mechanics as they're happening is just not playing the game, in my opinion.
Barkskin now.
Defensive.
Man, when we all realize that Liquid Weak Auras isn't going away and we're all still using that add-on next expansion, that's going to be beans. It's hard because I was just going to say that it's weird because, like, the bosses make sounds and have voice lines when they do things anyway, right? And it's kind of funny to be like, I mean, I understand it, right? When your boss says, ha, 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 like, a big AoE's coming. But when the boss says, AoE soon, that's like, it just feels a lot worse, right?
It's the equivalent of you get a self-driving car versus you're driving yourself. You're like, AI is taking my job.
We're purposefully stripping the fun out of the game for ourselves just to make things a little bit more understandable.
Were you joking about the Liquid Weak Auras? Because that's actually a thing, right?
Liquid Reminders is what I meant.
Reminders, yeah. Liquid Reminders is sticking around.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And will work.
Why?
Yep. Well, of course it will. How are they going to stop it? It doesn't do any calculation. Well, I think that it should even still work in game, right? I'm not saying when I say it should, I mean based off of the parameters of the rules. Not that I like it, for the record. But like, what are they going to do? It's literally just a timer. There's no. It just, you write in a note. I mean, notes in Raid have almost always been a thing, right? Going back to, going back to very, very early raids. All the Liquid Reminders does is it just reads the note out to you when you've been in combat for some amount of time.
You know what? Yep. I don't even have a problem with the notes. I have a problem with the TTS. It's like almost strictly the TTS. Like that is
it just a vendetta against TTS at this point? You're just like, I don't want to hear that lady talking to me.
No, it's more just like,
you can change the voice.
It's so powerful. No, okay, shut up. It's more that it's just so strong, right? Like how strong it really is. You have problems with computational weak auras. I think that computational weak auras are less strong than if you stole defensive tracking and raid healing CDs from a higher ranked guild and then just slammed them in your note, and then your TTS lady had your assignments perfect every single time. That removes that level of gameplay. It's, I think, maybe where my stance is like it kind of removes the variance of like what does it take for you to actually like progress the boss and like that skill itself.
I mean, have you seen the other thing that people were doing? You make a /local timer macro with all the timers of your stuff, and the second the boss fight starts, you press the macro and it creates a timer for each of the things. It's like /local or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think shit like that should get removed. Like, oh yeah, people are like, oh yeah, they're taking away too much stuff, and I'm like, that's stuff like Liquid Reminders and
gun that down.
Liquid Reminders and shit like that, and TTS lady, all of them, fuck out of here. Like that shit. Like that sucks.
People have been arguing like, I don't know if we'll use that kind of stuff in Midnight if like the boss fights are easy enough. And I'm sitting here like, if it exists, people will use it to gain any advantage whatsoever. Like, if it helps you remind you one time to press a critical defensive or a critical thing, people are going to use it.
As long
right?
as it's
like,
easy. Like, as long as it's not like, oh, we're getting a 21st man for this. Or yeah, I mean, as long as it's not like super difficult. Okay, if you had to go through and get like YouTube videos set up and we're gonna sync play these every single pull. All right.
I mean, I agree that none of this stuff is mandatory, but dude, the idea that people won't make weak auras or whatever if you just make the bosses good is so silly. Like, if you think that, open up your liquid weak aura pack that you have if you have entered the raid on Mythic this expansion or your Northern Sky, and then type in Plexus Sentinel into the box and see how many weak auras there are for the literal first raid boss that you're just eating your dinner when you show up to raid and you're not even like fighting, you're not even paying attention, and there's like 15 weak auras in just that boss alone. Like, you know, again, I'm not saying they're necessary, but like they're in the game and you have this pack and now everybody has the liquid downloader thing because you need to have everyone on the same version for Fractalist because it solves everything and communicates everything. Like, you know, again, it's provides a very, very small edge, but when you're a guild leader and you're raiding 20 people and you're trying to herd everyone together and not waste everyone's time, you know, you're going to take every edge you'll get. It's the same reason that you farm to do augment runes, or you might buy the new expensive feast for that patch, right? Like, does any of that matter for your ability to kill the boss? I mean, barely to know, but people will still do it, right?
People got so bad whenever I was doing my 0 to hero by Brewmaster Monk, the fact that I didn't use consumables, and I was like, I refuse. Like, I don't need these consumables. The reason I'm dying has nothing to do with the flask of alchemical chaos. It has to do with the fact that I have brain damage. I'm literally stupid. Like, there's no alchemical chaos isn't saving me from getting meleeed in the back, man. I don't know.
All right.
What do you guys think about the take? I've seen this take more and more frequently, where Blizzard shouldn't be willing to remove add-ons until they have perfect cooldown manager and nameplates ready and available. What do you guys think about that take? Because I think I've seen that one increasing in popularity, that Blizzard shouldn't do this until the perfect alternative is there.
I don't think they will ever get a perfect alternative until they force people to use it.
Really?
Well, yeah.
No, I literally don't think it would be possible.
The perfect alternative according to who?
According to
that's the biggest problem. To me, that's the biggest problem with that argument is like, if, you know, let's say I can wave a magic wand and the expansion comes out and I see, man, this is really dog shit. Like, these people were right. I don't want to play with this, right? If I could wave my magic wand and make them take it away till the next patch, right? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to keep waving my magic wand until I'm happy at my personal level. But there's a lot of people that literally just still use base UI or like close to default, and they're going to see this and think, oh, this is better. Yeah, this is great. Keep this, right? Delete all these people using their cybernetic enhancement add-ons to improve their gameplay and just, you know, let me use this. That's, I think, the biggest problem because, you know, if they... I also buy into a little bit that just force everyone to use it to get more feedback so they can make it better. But they don't necessarily need to do that, right? That's a little bit of a lazy out. I mean, people do it. I mean, not to call out bigwigs, but bigwigs literally does this, right? Where they force you to use their new features just to get people to use them, right? I don't know if you guys remember this, but I had beef with the bigwigs dev because everyone used the Mirez cooldowns on nameplate weak aura, right? That was like a normal thing. Yeah. Bigwigs added it to theirs, but anybody who wants it already has it.
You literally could not disable it.
Anybody who wants it already had it. So what did people do is they wanted to disable it. So then bigwigs realized no one will use this feature because everyone who wants it already has. Everyone already has their add-ons who wants customization. Why would they use the base UI, right? So then bigwigs stopped you from disabling it. So you couldn't disable it to make you use theirs. Then people changed the transparency to 0 and then hid it behind the nameplate so that you can't see it or click on it. And then bigwig stopped you from changing the transparency below 30%, so it's at least on your screen a little bit. And eventually, what happened? Everybody deleted the Mirez weak aura. Blizzard, you know, Mirez stopped even sending it out, and then now everybody uses the bigwigs feature. Like, it's very ugly and very annoying, but like, I don't want to say there's merit to it because I personally didn't like it, but that's like some part of it. But I just think the big part of it is, no one, like everyone has a different opinion of what good enough is, right? Like some people will literally never be happy unless they can rename the mobs, they can color code all the nameplates to the mobs they need to focus and the mobs they need to kick and the mobs that they shouldn't pull and hide the shitter mobs from details and like all this stuff that will probably never be a part of the game, right? There will be people that are not happy until those features are in. Until there's literal plater built into WoW, they're not going to be happy. So they... unfortunately, they've chosen violence here and to rip the Band-Aid off and just shove it into the game as fast as possible, which will cause the most amount of pain initially, but I think it will get things to a state that at least I'm personally happy with the fastest, if that makes sense.
Girl, I linked you an image of exactly what you're talking about in my mind. You know that meme, the Olympic shooter guy who just pulls up wearing no gear and just one hands the fucking shooter, like
that's what Weak versus Weak is right here.
Yeah, I would say that's me, but that's just the guy that I want to be. That is not me. I tell myself that if Blizzard removes the add-ons, then I'll wake up and I'll be that guy.
Well, I don't think that. I think that I don't really feel like I see this too often, but some people believe that their skill is going to improve whenever fewer people have access to more powerful add-ons. In reality, I think that the skill gap from the higher players to the lower end players is going to increase, not decrease, because you were already finding ways to track the most important thing regardless. Now you're just going to have to like figure it out, right? Like if you're like a higher end player, whereas the players that are in the middle of the pack aren't going to be willing to go to those lengths. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's almost worse for the average player in terms of their position relative to like high end players, whether it be damage that they deal, ability to be able to survive, ability to be able to do top end keys, that kind of thing. But
yeah, I believe that
because it gives you perfect information, right? Like Weak as they currently stand, it gives you access to pretty much anything you want. And if you feel like you're lacking in some area, yeah, you can find access to it. But without that in the future, the best players are going to be like internalizing, all right, so this is going to be on a 20-second cooldown. In approximately 15 seconds, I have to get ready to press my defensive. Whereas like bad players aren't going to like be doing that, right?
Yeah, I mean, add-ons are a big thing because you like to piggyback off what Grau said. You can make your UI whatever you want. If there exists no add-on, no customization out there, realistically, if you were dedicated enough, you could just make it yourself. That is no longer going to be the case. You are going to use Blizzard's UI, and there's going to be a lack of customization. That's unfortunately the truth of it.
Yep.
So.
All right. Cool stuff I see this week. I saw this post on Competitive WoW Reddit. I don't know if it's necessarily cool, but I thought it was really funny. 30 plus depletes per key. Is that the reality of fucking high keys? For the first season, I'm trying to really push myself to the highest IO. As I don't want to focus on rating anymore, I rerolled tank this season. I've been enjoying it a lot up until where I now feel like I can't progress much further. To get invites to the next key level or consistently play on my own key, I should knock out Resilient 16 first, but pugging prior to the Sacred Flame and Floodgate has been sort of impossible. I have played every variation of routes up to this point, been flexible in what the group wants or doesn't want, have been in the same Resilient group for 3+ hours, but the failure rate just seems ridiculous. I don't die as a tank in these keys as the danger is almost exclusively centered around the group, but even getting a group that gets the kick rotation right in priority to Sacred Flame on the first boss is like hitting the lottery. Is this the reality of pushing high keys? Grau, you want to tackle this one? Because I thought that this was so funny whenever I first read this.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Welcome to the party.
Where do we start here?
Pugging
let's
high keys.
Let's start. I'll start with the negative stuff. I feel like I haven't riled enough people in the comments yet, so I'll start with the negatives. As much as it feels like when you're doing keys that everyone else is the barrier to entry to you going up and you're doing everything perfect every time, I've played with you, random tank in LFG who doesn't have 16 prior yet, and you're not nearly as good as you think you are. If you think you're just going into these keys for hours and hours every time and doing everything for your group perfectly, and they're the only reason that you're not timing it, I'm sorry, but this isn't a slight at tanks. This is everybody, right?
This isn't like this isn't him. This is like,
Yeah, this is not this one person. This is literally everybody in Group Finder. That if you feel like you're really, really stuck on this key and there's nothing holding you back, I mean, you're around the level that you're at for a reason, unfortunately. Like I got a lot of help from people on my random alts and stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, like, now I can go back and slam those keys with extremely high success rate on the characters that I did. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that you just really, really have to focus on improving and trying to get better as you want to move up. This stuff isn't easy, right? 16 Priory, 17 Priory. These are not easy keys. Like this is a small percentage of the player base that does these keys. And while everyone's talking about resilient or saying they want even less penalty for depleting, keep in mind that resilient keys sort of create this situation where you don't really want to practice the lower keys where you actually get full reps and see the whole dungeon. Because not like you're just never there. So there's a comment here. I think it's like the second comment in the thread or something that says something along the lines of, if you ever get a bad key, like a Priory or Floodgate, that's Resil, you go into another key, you re-roll it, and then you do your easier key that you got right. Yeah. You if you have a bad key that's Resil, you go into someone else's key, do an Eco Dome, you re-roll it, and now you have an easy key now too. It might take you a couple tries. Here's the problem is now you're getting no reps on the dungeon that you need the most help on, right? Because of this system, because of the Resil system and because of the reroll system, you're spending as little time in Priory as you want. So you're going into Priory and wiping on the first pull over and over again. And that's the only thing that you're seeing in the dungeon. Like there's a lot of times also where you see the very last part of Priory and you wipe because everybody chokes or people don't know how to pull that room or whatever, right? And like maybe if you would have done them on a lower key, you would have had more practice about it. I mean, I'm kind of rambling and being harsh here, but my point is only that you just got to focus on your own gameplay. And, people underestimate the value that you get of going down a key level and doing a key that you've already done to practice for the higher key level.
I'm going to tackle this question slightly differently. I'm going to say the answer is absolutely yes. This is the reality of pugging high keys, but most of it comes down not necessarily. Growl would put the growl here is like what you do as an individual to focus and then increase your success rate. But what I'm going to say is, and this might be a little bit eye-opening for some people, but whenever you're playing as a solo player, it's you and 4 other people. And then whenever you go back into that Priory of the Sacred Flame, it's you and 4 new people, like brand new people. And everything that you learn from that previous Priory of the Sacred Flame is not taken and transferred into that second one. And so that's kind of the issue of pugging in general, is that you're taking those 4 people and replacing them with new people. Now, what you said is you've been in the same Resilient group for 3 hours and the failure rate just seems ridiculous. The fact that somebody had a Resilient at that key level and then you guys weren't able to time that in 3 hours, I don't really know what was going wrong with that specifically, but that might be the other 3 people who then also had problems where they weren't really learning, right? It's because to be able to actually do high level keys of Mythic Plus, you actually have to progress. And I think that that's something that most people don't want to do. They want to do keys up until their level of which they are a little bit uncomfortable, and then they stop playing, where whenever you have to go through the resilience slog, whenever you have to actually learn how to progress, whenever you have to actually play with people consistently, people are unwilling to kind of make that sacrifice to do what it takes to continue to progress. And, that is the reality of pugging high keys, is that, to be able to do high keys, you have to progress at some point. And so pugging is almost mutually exclusive to high keys.
Tuttles is very right about that. Sorry, did you have something you want to add?
I don't push. I'm not gonna.
That's right.
Person.
Okay, well, I'll segue this into a little bit of like what I would say is the tip of the week and sort of my experience, especially in Priory of Floodgate. And this was talking with Greg, who's like not only a super good tank, but he also pugs a shit ton just because he likes the game and he gets bored. One thing I think that will help your success rate in keys is anytime you need to do a stop or like kick a mob or whatever, just send your kick or your stops immediately in every opportunity until you have nothing to press. I know it feels terrible because you're in cooldowns, but I'm telling you that this is going to dramatically improve your success rate as a keyer. So I've had this anti-add-on Omni CD discussion all the time that I get a lot of flack for, but the fact of the matter is this is how everybody plays the game. They look at their Omni CD, they think, can anyone else do this? If the answer is yes, then they're just going to sit there and not do anything about it, right? So when the Footman pops Defend on the first pack of Priory, and they see that all the AoE stops are up, they're not going to press shit because they're in cooldowns. But most of the time you are with right. That's because that's what Titles does, right? That's what everybody does. So
when
you're pugging,
no, I'm not pressing Thunderstorm here. Somebody else can fucking handle it.
But here's the thing, right? Titles is good enough that if there's defense going off and he knows that there's already been a few stops and he sees that all the stops are getting spent, he will eventually press his stop, right? So my advice to you guys would be in those keys, don't even worry about what everyone does. Literally make it a point. Every time there's AoE damage or like heavy damage, you just press a defensive no matter what. Don't save anything. Every time there's a like thing that you need to stop, whether it's an AoE stun or a single stun, use anything that you have over and over until you have nothing, with no regard to anyone on your team every time. Unless someone literally says they're going to get it, just stop every single one in the middle of your cooldown. I'm telling you from my experience, your damage will not be that bad, especially talking about defense. My damage actually goes up stopping the defense because no one else fucking does it, and because I don't die to the cast that I'm stopping. So there's my Priory and Floodgate tip of the week.
Now there is, I would say, the level that's higher than what Growl is saying. The next level up above that, and I actually think that what his advice was is actually fairly solid. But I think that the next step up is like you learn when your CC is supposed to go in the rotation. Like for me on my Shaman, I am the second kick. All right, so the tank, they normally get priority on first kick. I am trying to fucking wind shear that mob first frame that it comes out whenever I'm in a no voice pug before anybody else can take my fucking kick. And so that way they don't accidentally overlap my kick. But that's because I have a 12-second interrupt. Where on my Balance Druid, I'm sitting there and I know when the time is right. And you kind of like get a good feel of like when am I supposed to be pressing my CC? When am I supposed to be pressing my Solar Beam? Right? And like that kind of comes with experience and time, where for my Shaman, when is my CC best used? Right before my sentence or right after my sentence. So like in theory, I could, we walk into the pack, I immediately slam down my Thunderstorm, slam down my cap, I press in a sentence, my hands are off the fucking keyboard, I'm just doing my damage, right? And then it's never my fault if we wipe to somebody not pressing their CC, already pressed mine. On my Druid, when to press my CC is a little bit different, because more often than not, it's going to be a little bit delayed compared to most people. And same thing with like Solar Beam, same thing with Interrupt. But having kind of an awareness of like where you should roughly be in the CC chain or the interrupt order is like a good skill set to have. But I don't think it comes immediately, and I don't think it comes until after you experience kind of what Growl was giving you advice-wise, at least.
Based.
Squishy is talking, but nothing is coming out.
Oops, my bad. I think just in general, using stuff now and figuring it out later is the best thing. Like if you die now, you lose that on the X number of seconds that you would have lived and done more damage, right? Like if you just use your stuff now, even if it's overlapped and you die later, it's better than dying now and then everybody being dead. Like live now, figure it out later.
Something I was doing on my Remaster 0 to Hero that was actually really OP was, okay, first off, I was like recording and streaming it all. But what would happen was I would state verbally aloud like what I thought happened. What did I think went wrong on an individual pull? And then I would watch it back to see exactly what did happen. Because I feel like sometimes it's like, okay, there's this kind of thing of like trying to recognize what actually happened in that moment is like kind of crazy. You're like, holy shit, what even just happened? Did I get body pulled? Like what's even going on here? And then it's like, okay, then I watch it, I figure out what actually happened, and then I try to figure out what do I need to do differently to fix it, or what can I do differently to fix it? Is there anything that I can do differently? And having that VOD and being able to like assess and at least in my mind even recall correctly what happened makes me more acutely aware in the moment, at least in the future, of what can possibly happen and how I can possibly counteract that. And I think that that's also really good.
Yeah. All right, my cool thing. Something that isn't even announced yet, because I just found out about this earlier. So we've data mined how the upgrade tracks work in Midnight.
Okay.
And they are very interesting.
The crest upgrade tracks.
Oh boy.
The crest upgrade tracks. Yeah. So the item levels are about the same as they are right now.
Okay.
So essentially a Hero 5 is equal to a Myth 1. And therefore a Hero 6 is equal to a Myth 2. So, using the same item levels, it's pretty much the same how it is now.
That's
However,
different, right?
Is it?
I think a Hero 5 is 3 item levels lower than a Myth 1, isn't it? Because that's where
Hero 5 is Myth 1. No, Squidgy's right.
Wait, why do you lose 15 crests then?
Because you
Oh, you have to upgrade to the Myth 1. You're right. Okay.
Right. Kettles L.
I'm cooked.
L.
I'm cooked, chat. I'm sorry.
Okay, so from go from Hero 1 to Hero 2.
from 701, or you upgrade from 707 costs 15 gilded. Yes.
He just disconnected and reconnected, and then everything came out at 100 miles an hour. That's so funny.
All right. Hero 1 to Hero 2.
Wait, hold on, stop. Can you guys hear me?
Oh.
Yes, we can hear you now.
He's gone.
Is he gone? Oh shit.
He's gone. Well.
All right. What were you saying?
All right, we'll
Sorry,
keep going.
I got cooked. I got cooked with the Myth 1 discussion.
Oh, here he is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We heard you. We heard you the entire time.
I don't know what happened, but just sorry.
Hero 1 to Hero 2, 10 crests. Hero 2 to Hero 3, 20 crests. Then 30 crests, then 40 crests, then 50 crests. All of the hero track. So all ruined crests. Meaning, you can either... So to go from Myth 1 to Myth 2 is the same as Hero 5 to Hero 6. You can either pay 10 gilded crests or 50 ruined crests.
Interesting. Do you know anything about the caps?
No.
Interesting, because that's if the caps don't raise dramatically, that's going to be really tough to get those last couple upgrades.
I will say one of the things that's going to be a little bit. Oh wow, I don't know why I just went to like min max mode. So now you're going to want to get like every single piece of gear on the max hero track from Mythic Plus. So get it from a +10, and then upgrade them one piece at a time, right? Where kind of like you're doing resilience on your slots, as opposed to being like, yep, you'll do like 34. You'll do like 30 on every single piece, and then you'll do 40 on every single piece, and you'll do 50 on every single piece, because otherwise you're going to be like losing crests or spending too many crests rather, and you can actually get an additional upgrade on a per week basis if you do it like that. That's
that is one way to think about it. But then if you think about it as well, if you power level one of them, like let's say you go, one piece all the way to hero 6 out of 6, you pay the 50 crests to get to 6 of 6. You then save 10 gilded crests if you have a myth piece in that slot. So now you're paying extra on the ruined crests to get that piece up, but you're sacrificing other things. So now it's turning into a real math problem, because you're calculating the increase on one slot, but you're losing out on a bunch because the cost per item level increase is no longer fixed.
But no, hear me out.
Dynamic.
So you upgrade your alt. You upgrade your alt to 6 of 6 rune, so that your main has a 6 of 6 rune discount. So then the gilded all right. Hold on.
Okay, so,
I gotta get a spreadsheet out.
So the thing to do to get your highest item level on all of your gear is to upgrade them one slot at a time at the exact same pace, right? 4, then 5, then 6 on every single slot. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you go, oh god, the discount on the gilded is an interesting discussion. Yeah, like I didn't really consider it like that.
Because you think about it. Think of it as like a single piece. Like take shoulders, for example, right? Let's say you have a hero 1 piece. And if you upgrade it all the way, you save 10 gilded crests, but you're spending 150 ruined crests. But that saves you gilded, so you save more in the long term. But then in the short term, you are spending so many ruined crests on that, but then you're forced to spend gilded crests, which kind of makes you extend your long-term stuff. It's so interesting.
Are 90 rune crests worth 10 gilded, I think, is the conversion, right? Because it's the opportunity cost of doing 5 and 6, right? So it's 90 runed.
Yeah, if you have the piece. But then, if you don't upgrade that piece and get a Myth 1 piece to drop, you then save a lot of rune crests, which can go somewhere else.
Say 40 runed?
10, 20, 30, 60. But yeah, it's just like...
Sure. I wasn't like, yeah, whatever.
Like, I don't know how I feel about this, because even this discussion that we're having right now of like how to min-maxing, I think it's an interesting discussion for us, and absolutely horrific for anybody that wants to optimize where to put their crests.
I mean, it's not gonna matter. Like, I think that people way overthink like their gearing.
Oh, I completely agree.
I think it's just way stupid, but like,
on Vault Day, every single class Discord, if this is how it actually works, is going to be, guys, I got this in my vault. Do I upgrade 5 of 6, 6 of 6 hero, or do I upgrade my myth track 1, or do I do this? Like, where do I put my upgrade? Because at least right now, the answer is sim it. The problem is you can sim it for right now, but your decisions this week have long-term impacts on future gearing weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said earlier, the thing that you can best do to get the most immediate power is to, get all of your pieces at 4, then get all of your pieces at 5, then get all of your pieces at 6, one slot at a time. But that might not be the best long-term thing, especially if it depends on if your bottleneck is gilded or if it's ruined. Because I think that there might be a chance where your bottleneck actually ends up being ruined, which is that, and then you would just fucking be like, yep, all right, we're I think you would probably just sit at hero 4 still on all of your gear in case you got a gilded in that slot. And or in case you got a myth piece in that slot. That's weird. I've never really, holy shit, that's so much thought that you have to put into optimizing the gear upgrade system. But it's not going to matter for most people, but holy shit.
All right, think about it. Hero 4 to 6, you got a myth track piece from your vault. That gives you a free upgrade to go to hero 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
Then you turn into 50 crests to go to hero 6 out of 6, so that you can get a free upgrade on the myth 1 of 1 to 2.
Yeah, write this down.
You go back and forth with 2 tracks.
Dog, write this down. It's gonna be important later.
Makes sense.
I mean, overall though,
I think you're gonna be ruined. I think you're gonna be ruined bottlenecks before you get gilded bottlenecks, generally speaking, because I think it's hard to get. Okay, unless you're getting fed gear from raid, which some people do, but most of the population, probably most of the people who are even watching this video aren't getting a bunch of gear from raid. So you have to have enough gear from raid to be gilded bottlenecked anyways. And you can always craft as well. Crafting is pretty good. And I guess I'm assuming that crafting is staying the same. I don't
know.
Yeah, nobody knows. I'm just assuming. Runed crests are going to be a more hot commodity, and you're going to be more inclined to grind really hard for Mythic Plus pieces to save Runed Crests, as opposed to being like, yep, this Champion Track gear versus Runed gear, same shit. No, it's not the same. It is not the same anymore.
Yep. But yeah, this is for all tracks, by the way, including Gilded.
It's so hard to get a bunch of Runed Crests. I don't know how most people get Runed Crests. The way I get Runed Crests, I fill up my Gilded Crests, and then they give me Runed Crests. For Mythic Plus, I don't think there's a great way of getting a good amount of Runed Crests, and that's going to be something you're going to want to cap every single week.
But if the data is right, this means that the champion track is only 6 long instead of 8, which also means that champion is pretty much equivalent to hero right now. So I think these are good changes.
Champion should not have been 8 anyways. That's stupid.
But yeah, it should be veteran, explorer, whatever other adventurer, all the way up to gilded. Very interesting crest changes. Growder, do you want to say anything on that?
No, I mean, you guys actually covered it. I was just kind of thinking over things. I guess I don't want to comment too hard because let's see how it plays out. But I think that the 4 of 6 to 5 of 6 or whatever situation was problematic, and so I think whatever they do, hopefully they address that. This is certainly an interesting way to go about. I think, generally speaking, for systems like these, they have people much smarter and better at problem solving than me. And so I just usually stay out of the discussions of how this stuff should work and let them handle it, because usually they do it in a lot more elegant way.
Okay. All right, we're an hour 47 minutes in. We're going to tackle some Q&A. I had some extra Q&A lined up. I think we're just going to tackle that one that Growl posted today, since we already are near 2 hours, that we don't run super long. We can come back to these next week or whenever. If you want to submit Q&A, DM it to the @thebenchwow on Twitter. You can also DM it to me, or apparently Growl, but I would not DM it to Growl. He's not very reliable.
Do not DM it to me. This was a very well thought out question, so I remembered it. But I would say 95% of the questions that I get DM'd, I read. I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and then I either tell them to DM you, or I forget about it and it gets lost.
We are 68 episodes deep. I think this might be the first Q&A question for Growl from Growl so far.
That is not the first one I've received.
No, it's
the first one that we posted though. All right, so it says, I started playing in Shadowlands, and I've played mid-core on and off again since then. Eventually, I decided to try to push keys in Season 2 of The War Within, maybe Shadowlands, I don't really know. I followed tips from Titanforge, including being as good at your class as you possibly can, aggressively networking and playing for keys even without score. I got title last season and ended up playing with other rank 1 key pushers and even some MDI competitors. My question is twofold. I still occasionally play with some of the super high-end IO people, and that causes me a lot of stress. For players like Dorky or Azuna or Ellesmere, if they make a mistake or run it down in a key, it's all good and no one would second guess inviting them the next day. But for me, one key depletion or running it down in some alt raid, and I may never be invited by those kinds of people again. At some point, everyone was new to the scene, so I understand it must be possible, but how do you break through the kind of clickness of NA High Mythic Plus, and how do you deal with the high stress of being in these keys with people who could lob you for other people and higher IO people and or 10 years of high-end Mythic Plus experience? Okay, so he probably got it, what, last season? Worth in season 2? Is this season 2 that he's probably
I think
about?
so. Yeah. I wasn't sure exactly about the time frame, but I assume, this was a season 2 title.
Yeah.
More than.
Wow, this is an interesting question. Have you had thoughts to mull this one over a little bit, or have you had time to mull this one over a little bit?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple definitely things in here that I resonate with for sure. The first one I'll say is, while it's true there's like some clickness, I don't like to necessarily use that phrase, and I like to think of it more as like you have a level of street cred, right? And like there are few people like Yoda or Dorky or Ellesmere who have seemingly unlimited street cred, who basically, like, if anyone invites them to any group, you would never really bat an eye. But there's a lot of like other groups, I guess you might call them cliques. I just don't like to think of it like that, where, you may have a lot of street cred with a specific group that you play with where they all know you own, but you go to another group and you might not have any. For example, like in BFA, I started off, a lot of people would have considered me as like one of the better healers in NA at that time going into Shadowlands. But, like Nerf and his brother and some of those other people, I very rarely played with those guys. And like I would have those exact same feelings the few times that I played with Nerf, right? There's one time I remember where we did a key and like he died as a tank. And I was thinking to myself, well, if Nerf died, like it had to have been my fault, right? There's no way Nerf made a mistake. And like now he thinks that I'm dog shit. And so like, I have that in my mind too. Like I think it's not necessarily unique, it might feel like that goes away or that there's like some, eventually you build up the street cred, but the truth of the matter is like very few people get to that level of, again, Dorky or Ellesmere or Nerf or whatever, who you just, you don't really worry about that. And then at the same time, like those guys are crazy anyway. So I think that's something that will always happen. I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, so I think that what Growl is talking about is the difference between closed and open circle groups. Open circle groups, these are probably people who are playing with Greg, right? Where open circle groups, it's like whoever's online is probably getting an invite, and Greg might be playing with 4 different people the next day, and there's no static group. Closed circle groups this is a 5 stack, maybe a 6 stack, maybe a 7 stack, and these are the only people who are ever going to be invited to those groups. You, even if you're Yoda, are probably never getting an invite to those groups because they play with one another. Those are the only reason that they play. Now, so let's start tackling this piece by piece. We play with super high O people, and it causes me a lot of stress. For players like Dorky, Izun, or Ellesmere, if they make a mistake or run it down in a key, it's all good, and no one would second guess inviting them the next day. Now, what I will say is there is a difference, and I think you're aware of this, between being a bad player and having a bad day. If you have a bad day, it doesn't really matter. If you're a bad player, then that's really telling. And I think that everybody has bad plays that they make, or even bad days that they have, and that doesn't necessarily make them a bad player. Now, the thing that's going to be the most important for you is being consistent. And the reason that you'll see players like Dorky or Ellesmere or Azuna, make a mistake and not really think anything of it is because that they're good players, right? And if they know that you're a good player, they're not going to really think twice whenever you make a mistake. You'll be like, okay, yeah, that was just a mistake. Like everybody fucks up in a key, frankly. And I will say that people overthink their own mistakes and put more pressure on themselves than other people put onto them. Like whenever I see somebody make a mistake in a dungeon, I don't sit there and think about their mistake in the dungeon. I'm way too focused on my own shit, right? Like I'm not sitting there thinking, how dare that guy die in my dungeon, wasting my 15 seconds. It's more like, all right, I gotta save my cooldowns for next pull. I got my own shit going on. That's unfortunate that guy died and lost his time. If it's a huge deal, we'll talk about it after the key. And I think that that's like the high-end stress thing is just really focus on your own gameplay and don't worry about what other people are doing, because they're not worried about what you're doing. And if there is something that needs to be discussed, it'll be talked about between keys or before keys or after keys.
I don't know about you guys. Obviously, I don't push keys, but I have a feeling the majority of people don't even remember names. Like sometimes it's just, oh, we didn't time the key, we go next. Unless you egregiously do something bad.
This person has reached. I think you're a little bit wrong. This person has reached the point where cred and who you know is really, really, really important, right? Because
fair enough.
Even
there was no key level here or anything like that. So
I mean, he's doing. Above title.
Title can be.
We're talking above title. We're talking 100 points above title. Is the title?
I think what maybe Squishy said may still apply to specific mistakes, though, right? Like in your head, you might deplete an Arakara because you did something bad, but in 2 days, no one's going to remember. Like maybe they might again if you did something really egregious, but like people aren't going to remember. Oh, that was the guy that depleted, unless it's like in a very outstanding fashion.
Yes.
Now, what it does do is it kind of erodes over time. Like if you're a good player, it's not going to erode. But if you consistently make bad plays or do low damage or make mistakes, that's going to erode away the positive thoughts that players have whenever they hear your name, and they'll be like, maybe we should invite somebody else instead of this person as our first pick. But if you're always an owner, you never die, and you do big fucking damn, that's going to build up that confidence where people will be like, you know what? That's that guy. Get him in here. That guy owns, right?
Yeah,
I think. Sorry, go.
I was gonna say, like, if you just like randomly stand at a swirly on the first boss of Arakara one time, like, oh, you stand a swirly. All right, my bad. Like, move on, go next. Like that can literally happen every week because just like a second lapse of judgment there, you just die on a 20 whatever.
Yeah,
that's fine. But if you're like running it down off the edge multiple times in a key, like. You take a battle res 3 times, die again, like that might be recognizable, for example.
There's also just huge RNG there too, right? Or randomness, I guess, in the sense that, like you might die in a terrible spot in a really important pull in a terrible way, but if you get immediately battle resed, it's kind of whatever. But then if you're the guy who dies on the last boss, even to like a very unfortunate set of circumstances, but your team doesn't have a battle res, and now you're just sitting there dead for 4 minutes as the timer slowly winds down, like that can be miserable, and people can remember that, right? So unfortunately, like there's just some randomness there, and like, you might get into situations where you look like a fucking idiot, and that just happens, and like you're remembered by that. Like there's a funny comment in here. I don't think this was intended, but I have a very, very relatable story of this guy says running it down in an alt raid. So this was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Running it down in an alt raid is crazy to think about. Yeah.
Well, it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was about midnight maybe, and my roommate got home from the casino, and we were watching a few poker vlogs in the living room, having a couple drinks and like chilling or whatever, talking about stuff. I wander upstairs to go to bed at like 2:30 in the morning. I sit down on my computer for like 1 second, a couple drinks in me, and someone messages me, hey, you want to do a 2 of 8 mythic? Like I wasn't even logged into the game. My light just turned green on Battle.net. And at first I'm like, hell no, I'm going to bed. But then I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm like, this is a good friend of mine. And if they're messaging me here at 2:30 in the morning when I'm not even online, they are probably so desperate right now for a healer. Like, fuck it. I'll just log in and I'll like help them out, right? So I log in. It's kind of like I would describe a clique of people that I don't really know that well. Like I kind of know some of them. But the fact of the matter is, I get one of the soaks on Plexus Sentinel, and I wasn't in the best state of mind, and I thought it was the thingy that you take out because it happened at the same time. So I took the soak out, and then someone gripped me back in, and then I ran out again. I'm like, why the fuck did I just get gripped? And then I'm like, why did you grip me? Because we're not even in voice, or just like typing. And then literally like 4 of the people at the same time were just like, what the fuck are you doing? Complete idiot. One person who I even know, who I think didn't recognize my character name, is like, why the fuck are you inviting people that don't even know the mechanics? And I'm just like, this is the first pull of a 2 of 8 pug that I basically only logged in to help these guys, right? And I'm just like, dude, what is wrong with you people? But I'm like, whatever, And then, okay, now we one-shot the other 2 bosses after that. But it's just like, I don't like that was just bad RNG in a way, right? Like I just happened to get invited to this moment with the wrong people at the wrong time on the wrong character that had the lockout, and I looked like a fucking idiot. And like maybe some of those people just think I'm a fucking idiot now. Like I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, again, everybody's afforded a few deaths. Like if you have like 1 death in a sesh, even if it's the worst death in the session and it like depletes the key 100-0 solely your fault, say you're playing a tank or something like that, right? If that's your only death in a session, we're fist pumping the air, right? Like that's a good day. Like hell yeah.
Yep.
Like
I think one last thing, and I probably mentioned this in the Titan Forge episode that I did way back when too, that they mentioned. Communicating in a confident and effective way, especially about things that you're doing, is very important. Like an example is during BFA, there were a lot of rogues who, in hindsight, were not that good of players, but they would communicate about things that they were doing, and they played a really good class, and they would get invited to, like, you know, the quote unquote inner circle or those top groups or whatever, right? And then you have people like Junkrat, who no one really knew about Junkrat at the time, and that guy doesn't talk, right? So no one knows what he's doing. And it took somebody as tuned into the game as Dorky to be like, wait a second, this guy fucking owns. Like, this guy doesn't have a team. He's not playing with anybody. He's just some random guy in LFG. And now, you know, Junkrat is like somebody who's rated in Hall of Fame guilds, played MDI, done everything, right? But like back then, I think it was a huge, not necessarily a detriment to his team, but it was a detriment to his progression to not talk, right?
Yes.
Because no one knows what he's doing, and no one knows that, oh, he distracted that patrol, and he kidneyed this guy, and he has the next stops, and blah, blah, blah. I'm cloaking. You know, no one really knows all the good stuff that he's doing, and sometimes that helps to not brag or whatever, but confidently remind your team that you exist and you understand the things that you should be doing, and you're doing them.
I mean, this is very true on Aug Evoker. This isn't as true on all other classes.
Yes, that's a great example.
Aug Evoker is, at least for me in season 1, I would like go into every single dungeon, be like, this is where I'm pressing rescue every single time. This is where I'm pressing Zephyr every time. Does anybody have a problem with that? No, nobody has a problem with that. All right, and it's like everybody's gonna know exactly what I'm gonna be pressing each and every single time, and then I would like, you know, crack the whip and call fucking externals because I needed them in season 1 on my Evoker. It's like, all right, we're AMZing next. I need it. And it's like, okay, cool. And it's all right, we're dropping the jet stream because I'm going to get hit with these icicles. Heal me, heal my character. And it's just
there
like,
are ways to make up for a lack of mechanical skill. Like somebody, as Growl said, somebody may die more, but so like it just comes down to, as others have mentioned, cred, I think, because this applies to not only Mythic Plus but Raid. It's just, what is your worth to the group in a way?
yeah.
If you're calling stuff, if you're pinging stuff, if you're nasty on kicks, like, and stops and never miss one, you may die a little more than an average person, but you're still worthwhile bringing to the group.
It's like a bank account, right? As long as you deposit more than you withdraw, there's no problem. But once you start withdrawing more than you deposit, you gotta go.
Well, right. It's a matter of, you know, this is a guy who's broken in, right? And it might feel like, okay, I'm here, I'm at this level, but at the same time, you can't compare someone like that to someone like Ellismere, who's been a top 3 NA healer for like 27 seasons in a row. Like, obviously, that guy's going to get a little bit more leeway, right? And yeah, you do have to be a little bit more on edge and, like, you know, try a little bit harder, and you might not get the credit that you deserve or how good of you are as a player for a while, right? But that's just something that you got to grind out in a way.
I have an insanely funny story. So Ellismere in season 1 was tanking, and he would log in every single day. I would play with Ellismere fairly frequently because, you know, there's not many Aug Evokers I'll play in the middle of the day, but I was around. And so I would play with Ellismere fairly consistently. And we would more often than not have like a pretty decent healer, you know, a pretty decent death knight, and we would always be searching for enhancement shamans, and Ellismere would go down the list of the people that he thought were the most capable all the way down to the least capable of playing enhancement shaman, and he just had a bunch of enhancement shamans on his friends list, and he would start DMing people from the most capable to the least capable, and wherever you landed in that, and that's kind of like the transactions, right? If you had a really good day yesterday, you might be higher on that list, and you might have moved up a little bit, as long as you like really performed super well the last time he saw you.
That's so funny that you mentioned that. I can't be the only one that has observed friends list behavior on a stream where like someone, you know what I mean? Where a group will be like 4 of 5 and you get to see the thinking of like,
who are we
they
asking?
Open their friends list and they scroll down to a specific name and then they stop. And then you're like, oh, are they going to right click it? And then you might see them go into their chat box and you don't know what they're typing, but you know their mouse just went to the chat box. Or like they right click them or they think or like, you know. It's just, it's funny, like it is, but everyone does it, right? You know, you have your people who, this is your guy, right? Like if you got a key, this is your healer guy that you would message
I'm vouching
first.
for you. I think you fucking own. All right, I'm inviting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough system. It's cool that you made it there, but unfortunately, again, it's the grass is always greener, and yep, you're still on edge, and you still need to perform, and that's just it is what it is. That's why the game's hard.
You made it past actually 99% of title players. Everybody gets stuck.
Yeah, I also think that like the people that you mentioned, another name who I would think who's like Evade, right? Like he's a guy who he could fuck up the most crazy shit, and I would still have respect for that guy's game, right? But at the same time, like all these people I would also consider are some of the most critical of their own play, right? Like when you talk about Dorky, Evade, Ellismere, Yoda, right? These aren't guys who go into keys and run it down mid and don't care, right? Like these guys are more hard on their own play than literally anybody. So it's not like you're escaping. Yeah.
If they run it down,
it's not like Billy is escaping.
They're mad if they run it down.
They aren't escaping this and like going into keys and they're like, oh, this is a judge-free zone. Like they may be judging themselves 10 times as harshly as everyone else in the group would combine.
Yeah.
I think the last thing to mention is this is a game. And if it's causing you an undue amount of stress,
no.
Like,
it's not a game.
I don't think this is the point of what he was saying, but yes, I see what you're saying.
I know, but
Shut up,
it's just
you don't push keys. You don't know.